Hey, it's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. Every week on our show, we talk about food and cooking and the meanings of food and cooking. We talk with the most interesting people in food about their techniques, their culture, and everything in between. Whether it's about how fried chicken took over the world or how Instagram changes the way people are actually eating. It's a food show where everyone is welcome. Come join us. You can listen to The Splendid Table wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by the second annual Catskill Cuisine Festival. Visit catskill-cuisine.com to learn more and buy tickets.
Welcome to Spill and Dish, a podcast from the Specialty Food Association. Founded in 1952, SFA is the leading trade association and source of information about the $194 billion specialty food industry. We champion the food producers, retailers, and buyers who make up the specialty food world. Today's guest is Menu Maven, Nancy Kruse. She's the founder of the Kruse Company and is a recognized authority and widely quoted spokesperson on food and menu trends, who authors The State of the Plate, a column devoted to what's happening on the menu that appears monthly in Restaurant Business, where she also co-authors Sweet and Sour, a monthly exchange of ideas on strategic issues. Nancy will be taking part in the upcoming Summer Fancy Food Show panel titled State of the Plate 2024, Outlook and Opportunity for Specialty Foods. Welcome, Nancy. It's a treat to have you on the show, and I'm so pleased that our listeners, who also may be attending the Summer Fancy Food Show, can get a taste for what to expect during your presentation.
Well, thanks a million, Julie. I'm delighted to talk with you, and I'm really, really looking forward to being with your group in June. There's so much going on in the specialty food retailing environment. I think that we'll have a very, very good session. Lots to talk about.
Excellent. Before we jump into the trends, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you go about, how did you become a menu maven?
Well, I'd like to say it was by design. That's not exactly the case. I was on the marketing and advertising side for a long time, but I noticed changes in the food and food retailing environment. And specifically, I was interested to watch the country go through a kind of culinary revolution that really changed the way that we look at food and how we eat food. It opened up a whole world for me. It allowed me to create my own business.
Oh, that's great. So what are some of the things that you see happening with specialty food consumers in the year ahead?
Well, there's been just a sea change in terms of consumer demands and consumer behavior coming out of the pandemic. I watch the restaurant side very, very closely because it tends to be where most food trends really start these days. And that has carried over directly into the specialty foods arena. It does seem to me that the three sort of biggest drivers of demand at this moment are really sort of bound up in a trio of needs. Comfort is one, community is another, curiosity would be the third. And I'm kind of borrowing those from the National Restaurant Association as it happens. They have highlighted those as key to consumer demand going forward. And I absolutely agree that the most successful food and beverage items coming on stream now address one or more of those three imperatives.
Okay, so let's get into some of the trending foods or flavors or products that you're seeing that tie into one or more of those trends.
Sure, absolutely. Well, if you think about comfort, and there's nothing new about comfort foods. I mean, basically, that's the basis of the American diet, right? Our favorite foods, the familiar foods. But what seems to be happening at the moment is what I'm going to call successful excess, which is to say that you do more and more and more of it. For example, cheese is having a moment, and you cannot put too much cheese in a dish or on an item. Consumers want it melted. There's a tactile sense, a sensory appeal, if you like, to melted cheese. In fact, a few months back, the New York Times ran a story on the sudden growth of the patty melt, a sandwich which gets lots and lots of its appeal from that wonderful melty cheese. So that's big in the comfort arena. Southern Foods biscuits in particular are trending. Again, they probably never go out of style, but they're definitely in the spotlight at the moment. I think the only sort of word of caution here is if you're going to do a biscuit, make it a good one, and then load it down with good stuff, whether you use it as a sandwich carrier, whether you slather it in butter and honey or jam. It is absolutely irresistible to today's consumer.
Okay. And can Americans afford to eat out? A few times I've gone out to eat with my family, and I have a bit of a shock when I, get the check. Are Americans having to shift or balance their priorities when they decide if they can, afford to eat out?
Well, some of them are. Some of them are shifting when and where they eat out. Some of them may be cutting down on the frequency with which they eat out. And so clearly the whole restaurant sector is kind of on alert and working to generate traffic and throughput. One of the most successful weapons that they have at their disposal as restaurant operators, and that specialty food manufacturers and retailers have in common, is this notion of curiosity. Consumers are really interested in global foods and flavors. It's something that most in the American mainstream, if I can use that expression, aren't necessarily familiar with ahead of time. And so they're introduced to the new in an environment, a restaurant environment that's comfortable to them. Working within the global pantry is an enormous opportunity. Again, not just for restaurant operators, but for specialty food retailers as well. It really plugs into the interests of the American diner. We're more sophisticated. We're armchair travelers. And we like, frankly, to be able to brag a little bit about what we've been eating and where we've been eating it. So this, again, is a trend that's very deeply rooted and will be with us in the long term.
It's so interesting. I'd love to hear more about that. But first, let's pause for a short break.
Gather your friends and family at the second annual Catskill Cuisine Festival, presented by the Sullivan Catskills Visitors Association, Bethel Woods Center for the Arts, and Resorts World Catskills. Mark your calendars for a flavor-packed weekend from May 10th to May 12th. Experience the fusion of phenomenal food and electrifying entertainment. Rub shoulders with your favorite Food Network personalities, including Andrew Zimmern, Michael Simon, Scott Conant, Marcus Samuelson, Jeffrey Zakarian, Anne Burrell, Melba Wilson, and distinguished international chefs by LaBelle Farms. Kick off the festivities with Friday's star-studded golf tournament and evening reception. Saturday heats up with free tastings, thrilling live demos, music, and family activities, culminating with a gourmet dinner hosted by celebrity chefs. And on Sunday, celebrate Mother's Day with a special celebrity-curated brunch. Tickets for this celebration are selling like hotcakes. Visit catskill-cuisine.com to grab your pass for this unforgettable weekend in the picturesque Catskills. See you there!
Okay, we're back now with Nancy Kruse here. Nancy, can you tell me about specialty food brand names on menus? We've heard from a couple of our members about that being the goal when, attempting to sell their product into food service. Is that something that you're seeing?
It is, however, it is very dependent on the nature of the restaurant operation. The higher up the chain you go, the higher up the food chain, if you like, into fine dining, the more likely you are to find chefs who want to establish themselves as the brand. And they, especially if they're perhaps younger chefs and newer to the game, may be less willing to take that kind of outside validation, which really does score with customers. If you're operating in casual dining, I think that there's tremendous upside opportunity. Consumers like to think of themselves as being more sophisticated, and I think they're also open to being educated relative to, let's say, the type of wine that's being used in a sauce, the type of cheese that's going in to the dish. Those are signifiers of quality and sophistication. And I do think going forward that there is, as I say, a lot of upside opportunity.
Excellent. Is there something in particular that attendees to your summer fancy food show session can expect to hear about, or is there, some type of trend or message that you're looking forward to imparting on the audience?
Well, I'm going to make it my objective to be as real world and hands-on as possible. In other words, I really like to present lots and lots of examples as opposed to, data points or, God forbid, my own opinions, of which I have many. The point is, what's going to be important to the folks in the audience will be real examples of what's happening in the real world in terms of the foods, the flavors, presentation techniques, preparation techniques as well, that are really connecting with today's consumers. I would hope that the attendees get a sense of what the consumer is looking for and how to bring them back in on a repeat basis.
That sounds like it's going to be a really good one. I definitely won't miss that session at the show. A big thanks to Nancy Kruse for joining us today. You can find out more about this show at specialtyfood.com and heritageradionetwork.org. And remember to follow wherever you get your podcasts. Come back often to get to know the people who are shaping the future of food. Special thanks to Nancy Kruse and to Heritage Radio Network, the world's pioneer food radio station. This is Spill and Dish, a Specialty Food Association podcast.
Spill and Dish, a Specialty Food Association podcast, is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick Layton.
And I'm Leah Bottima.
And we're the hosts of Were You Raised by Wolves?
Each week we try to make the world a kinder, nicer place.
Well, that's the idea, at least.
I mean, we try.
Have you ever wondered what to do if you're ghosted?
Or what to do when a friend asks you to borrow money?
Or the proper way to eat Cheetos?
You know, the big questions.
So please find Were You Raised by Wolves wherever you listen.